So Clumsy comes out in 1997, 5 singles: Superman's Dead, Clumsy, Automatic Flowers, Carnival, 4 a.m. All 5 of those are like undeniable hits when you hear them. And before I start the questions for this album, I have to go over some of the accolades because this is ridiculous. It goes diamond in Canada, which is 10 times platinum or 1 million copies sold.
Here.
What's going on? You're taking off?
No, look, I got right here. Here's the Diamond Clumsy Award. See, it's nice and thick.
Oh man, that is, maybe it's 10 times thicker than the normal plaque there with the
yeah, no, it's pretty rad for sure.
So diamond in Canada, 1 million copies sold, 10 times platinum. It sells another 1 million in the US. It is only, I mentioned this in the promo for this interview, that it's only one, it's just one of 3 Canadian bands that have a diamond album alongside the Bare Naked Ladies and the Tragically Hip. I mean, that what better company can you be in with those 3? And for the 20 years between 1996 and 2016, Clumsy was the single best-selling album in Canada by a Canadian band. There's no album in a 20-year period in Canada that outsold that, which is, I mean, that's the top 1% of 1%. A couple more things. Radio station The Edge 102 said it's it's the number 1 album in 1997 based on sales, listener requests for songs, and votes for the top album at the end. And then it's on the list of top 100 Canadian albums of all time. Number 3 on The Edge, their top 102 rock albums of all time. So all of this, I'm building a picture here to say that almost no human being will ever experience that level of success with their music and their band. Can you try to put into words what your life was like during that ridiculous juggernaut of an album?
Controlled chaos, again, because we expected that stuff. So then you're getting into like megalomania, I guess, a postured reality, all of those things start to kick in when you have that kind of success. You start to think that things that aren't true. You kind of lose it a little bit, because it's just so intense. And like you said, it was, the fire in Canada, the flash of that pan was like insane. So yeah, it was it affected us all, and I don't, in ways that probably changed us for sure. Definitely, yeah, it was impact where you're kind of like it I felt like I was uncentered all of a sudden in a way, but it was incredible. I remember being on tour, and all of a sudden we're playing in arenas with 2 tour buses, and I remember our bus driver Jim Boatman laughing and looking at me, and I was like, he was just from Nashville, just this classic dude at the time. He was in his 60s and had been with everybody from Soundgarden to Willie Nelson, and was in a barbershop quartet with himself as a singer in the 50s. And we're playing this huge tour and big places packed beyond. And he's laughing at me, and I'm like, what's so funny? He's like, and I'm like, what's so funny? He's like, you don't even know what's going on. You don't even know that this is the peak of your whole existence. You don't even know anything. He just got more. He thought it was more funny the more I asked him, what do you mean? He started dying, right? I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like trying to justify the reason for these 20,000 sellouts that happened in minutes, and he's just laughing harder and harder because he knew that I thought that it was like, no, it's based on like the work and we're doing all this stuff. And he's like, he's crying, and now I get it,
do you think that you were so close to it that you couldn't actually see how big that was?
When you're so close to it like that, you think you have a hand in the manufacturing of it. Like you think that, well, this is because we tried to do this, and that's not true at all. You know, you do what you can, but eventually when it gets to that level, you know, that's like there's no manufacturing going on. It's just you kind of hang on and ride it, right?
Do you think that was the perfect storm of, you had a great album with undeniable singles, you had been building since the last album, so there was this fan base that was underneath that, you had a record label that after the 4 times platinum of the first album was ready to sink some investments into this album, that the landscape of radio at that time, it was perfect with what people were listening to. Like, it's just a perfect storm that came through in 97.
Yeah, well, we had Columbia Records, their full staff, so that again, and obviously even though we didn't have the hipster success of Starseed getting on the K-Rocks and the 99Xs, with the second record, it was big across every form. Not to mention we did the Van Halen tour that in 95, and that really helped radio for us across the Midwest of America. So we had a lot of success by going in and shaking hands the first time around. So by having Columbia on it with a bigger staff, and all these radio stations probably felt that too, like, oh, okay, here, this is the same band that came in with Relativity, but now you feel the difference. So again, by that American power that was happening, the Canadians were just like double the time and then around the fence, because they're like, oh yeah, they're from here, we did this. Right, so there's that happening times 10. So that definitely was the perfect storm. We just kind of wished that we'd had more success in America that would have, and pushed, because we were doing well in certain areas of Europe. So we, in our mind, we're like, well, we're trying to do this, but we're also trying to build in Europe, and certain, like Germany was good, and London and France was good, but we wanted to try and build out in other markets there too. So you're always trying to think of where things aren't happening, and you want them to be happening there. So there was the perfect storm, but it made sense a little bit at the time to think that, like, well, we can take this up a notch, because you see bands like Green Day or whatever other huge band that goes huge in America, but then it goes and it goes, and it's just 50 times bigger. You know what I mean? So we were so close to, like, well, okay, we're going to get to that point where it's like, 30,000 records a week in America, and then things start popping everywhere else. But that was the mindset, with, like, when you're hoping to crack that next level of the band, to see if you can do that. Because the most important thing at that time was, we were playing arenas, but we had a great live act. Like, the show was banging at that time, and it sounded great, and we had great lights, and the production was fantastic. So we were definitely firing on all cylinders, and we didn't shortchange anybody.